Hello, it's January 17th, 2024. I wanted to share with you today an illustration from what we see in this modern world that represents very clearly what I'm trying to convey to others and what God conveyed to me in terms of how we are going back to religion and we are not following God directly. We are not living in relationship with Him, nor following His directions, His daily directions for us, what He would have us do individually and as His family, as His body, what we have called the church. So the illustration starts with a picture from what we know and see in this world all over the place. And so I want you to envision a company. We have companies all over the place. In this Western world, the foundation of our economies are businesses and corporations. And each one of those companies is started and built by an owner or a CEO. And then below, you have all the infrastructure. You have the people working for the CEO. Under the CEO's leadership, you have different divisions. You have people in different spaces doing different things. But they're all working for that owner, that CEO, if you will. Now, what happens in Christianity and Christian religion is that we stop following God and we start following rules and principles and doctrines of practice, and we start to use those hard facts as our only guides. And you've heard me say it before that we are doing that with the scriptures. We are using the Bible as as we love to say, our basic instructions before leaving earth. And yes, almost every Christian would absolutely say that, of course, we're listening to God and we're asking God and we're praying to God for directions. But I can tell you that I know from God's leading and teaching and what He's done in my heart and how He's changed my religious focus by His grace, not by my own, is that in Christian religion we are taught simply to go to the Bible and go to the instruction manual and find out, okay, this is what I need to be doing and this is how I need to apply it. So let's go back to the idea and the illustration of the company, the corporation. So you have God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, as the owner, the creator of His company, His body of believers, His church, if you will, His heavenly family, which He has redeemed. In an earthly corporation, every company will have some sort of instruction, some sort of manual, the company manual, that will give general guidelines as to how the company is structured, what the owner, CEO, leadership, top leader would want each person in the company and in their different divisions to generally know about the company, whether it would be history, general operating instructions, theory as to what the company would like to accomplish, its goals, its why it exists, its mission statement, things like that. So if you've all worked in some sort of company and you are familiar with what I'm talking about, the idea of every company has a company operating manual, and those are general principles, procedures, facts, and history about that company. And then it's subdivided, of course, into each division. Now, if you have a huge company, you have multiple divisions separated out, everybody doing different things for different purposes. And the company manual will likely give very basic overview ideas of what each division should be doing, and rules, general rules of operation and conduct and etiquette, what is expected. So if you take that idea and use that illustration and start to think about this idea of Christians only falling back, falling away from God, and starting to go to this idea of following a manual, following the rules, the book that tells us supposedly everything we're supposed to know and do. But yet, in the real world, when you work in a corporation or some sort of company, those basic operating instructions do not tell you everything that you're supposed to do. As each situation comes up, as the company reacts and goes forward and does what a company does. So imagine again the CEO hits a situation or has a situation or has a change of focus, a new goal. Something has happened and life goes on and the company grows, and the CEO, the owner, needs to give very specific directions as to, we are now here, we are going to go here, and we're going to do this, and I need each person to know me and listen to me. The owner of the company needs to be able to communicate with each employee, and the employee needs to listen to the very specific directions that the owner gives for his employees or her employees. So imagine in that scenario if the employees of a company simply say, no, we have all the directions we need. We don't need anything else. We know exactly what I'm supposed to do. The manual right here says what I need to do and what my purpose is and what my goal is. That's all I need to know. And they don't listen to the CEO. They have no connection to the CEO. They don't know the CEO. And the CEO, more importantly, does not know them. They are simply living out rules and basic instructions that have no context, no personality, no relationship to the owner of the company, who knows exactly what needs to be done at any given time, rather than just putting out a product and living and acting a certain way within that company based only on a general idea of what needs to be done and what that person's role is. God is the CEO. He knows everything. He sees everything. He wants a direct relationship with every individual in his family, in his church. He does not send a manual and say, I'm up here and you are all below me, and I just want you to follow the manual and have good behavior and keep yourselves organized and doing general things. He wants a connection with each person, and he has specific instructions for each person. He will teach each person in his company what he wants them to learn. And it'll be through specific circumstances that we must follow, where he tells us to go, what he tells us to do. That is the difference between discipleship, relationship, which Christ said was the only way. That was his calling for the first disciples. We must stop doing what we think is right, according to the manual, according to the world, according to what we see around us. We must come unto the company owner, the creator, and have a direct knowledge of him, and he us. He must know us. So that was just a very powerful illustration of what religion does and what religion looks like, how it separates, and the mentality of religion separates us from God, and we say, no, we have our instructions. We know exactly what the CEO, the owner, wants from us because he wrote it in the book. And we don't realize that the book does not tell us what we need to do in regards to circumstances and knowledge and understanding that the owner can do what the owner wants, and the goals and the purpose and the plan of the owner is above our basic rule books and our doctrines. The owner has a goal to take the company where the company needs to go. Each individual needs to know from the owner what their role is in his family and needs to be trained by the owner. So envision that the owner and CEO holds a party and he invites all of his employees, and they show up at the door, and the owner opens the door and he sees someone who's his employee, says he's his employee, works as an employee under the banner of the company, but the owner says, I've never met you. I have no idea who you are. And this person might say, well, I'm this such and such, and I work in this division, and I proudly support the company, and I've followed your manual that you wrote, and all your principles and your ideas, and I know the history of the company. But the owner says, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. I've never met you. I've never given you directions. You've never taken my directions. So you are not welcome in my home. So hopefully that illustration is impactful for those who are listening. This idea that we cannot simply push God aside and say we've got his instructions, we know his rules, we know what he expects of us, we know the practices and behaviors that he expects of us, and now we will go off to our churches and we will follow the under managers and they'll tell us what to do in our different divisions and things like that. That is inherent in our nature, that we will follow that. We will fall away from God, and we will simply follow rules and procedures and doctrines and practices. The Bible is instructive. The scriptures are instructive. They can give us general ideas, but we have no knowledge of the owner, the one who spoke those words that we are able to read, unless we have truly met him. We have met God, Father, Son, and are indwelt by his Holy Spirit. Millions of Christians are under the banner of the company, using Christ's name in some form, and they're following the manual, but they don't know the CEO. And when the CEO gathers his employees, there will be millions who hear, I don't know you, I've never met you. I pray that God uses that illustration mightily to wake people up to the need for discipleship. As Jesus said, we no longer can decide what we are going to do, how we are going to operate in his company, and simply follow a rule book. Thank you for listening.